The seventh hack I want to share with you is check retention, which is also related to the delivery of the online experience. Remember, learning occurs when someone has encoded that information in the long-term memory and is able to retain it or retrieve it afterwards. Now, if someone has received the information but has not retained that information, they have not really learned. And if they have not learned, you have not really taught. So all the time that you've spent together has been wasted. So it's important for you to check retention and do it regularly. Generally speaking, it is a good practice to pause after every major section and do a short, fun, yet meaningful review quiz. I like to use the online app Kahoot, which is a free app where you can very quickly create quiz questions with multiple choice answers. And then you have people log in and they can compete against each other or work in teams to compete against other teams. They have a lot of nice sound effects and graphics, and they can see themselves on the scoreboard, this animated scoreboard, as they work on this quiz. So it's a lot of fun. So try to include that every time you have completed one section in your teaching. And if you're doing the flipped classroom model, I strongly encourage you to start with a quiz. Whether it's a quiz you want them to do right there in class or have them complete before they come to class. And this is a great way for you to check and see if they've actually picked up the key points that you want them to learn from the lesson and from the reading that they should have done prior to coming to class. And of course, you can ask questions throughout your online experience to check for retention. One suggestion I want to give you is avoid over-the-head questions. What do I mean by over-the-head questions? These are questions like, do you understand? Do you follow? Are you okay? These questions are so abstract and vague that most people just don't want to respond. So typically they are silent and you create this awkward pause, which is not very helpful. So instead of asking these over-the-head questions, I encourage you to ask content-specific questions. So ask specific questions that are related to what you've just been teaching them just now. What are the 3 factors of situational leadership? What is the main theme for the book of James? What are the 4 elements you must include when you're designing a ministry plan? Something that is very specific that could cause them to go back to the long-term memory and hopefully retrieve what they have picked up in the lesson. Another thing that's helpful to remember is if you're asking questions to your audience in Zoom, try to direct your question to a specific individual or individuals. So for instance, before I ask the question, I often say, I want to hear from Mary, John, and Peter on the following questions. Or this, and then I ask the question. Or I say, I want to direct the following question to Peter, Paul, and Susan. And then I ask the question. Why do I do this? Well, in a face-to-face classroom setting, I often direct the questions to specific individuals by looking at them. If I stare at someone long enough, they almost always will respond. But in Zoom, you can't do that. People don't know you're actually staring at them. All they see is you staring into the camera, but they cannot pick out who you're looking at. So by verbally saying the names of individuals, I am directing the questions, and this will trigger and prompt individuals to listen and to know to respond.